I think there are a lot of like products on marketplaces and things that people offer, packages for this, for that. And they sound kind of neat, they sound kind of plausible, but you got to make sure that like logically, like in the real world, like this makes sense. I don't want to get into any like very specifics because I don't want to bash anybody's products or anything like that, but you got to just ask yourself, like, is this potentially like a real world signal, and why would Google care about this?
Welcome to Show Me the Nuggets, where each week Joe chats with world-class entrepreneurs to find out the key principles, strategies, and processes that lie behind their outstanding achievements. Now, your host, the no bullshit serial entrepreneur, Joe Troyer.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Troyer. Welcome to another episode of Show Me the Nuggets. Today we have on a true SEO expert named Steve Toth. So Steve, I've been watching on LinkedIn, and he's been putting out an amazing amount of great SEO content, and not just lots of it, but really good quality as well. So if you guys don't know Steve, Steve worked for FreshBooks running SEO strategy and really crushed their traffic over there, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But he also runs SEO Notebook, which really is giving out just a ton of amazing content about SEO. Definitely suggest you guys check that out. And without further ado, Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Joe.
Yeah, man, super excited to have you. So my team found that from 2019 to 2020, you guys at FreshBooks were able to double organic traffic. So that's a pretty impressive feat.
Yeah, we luckily had the the support of an executive team and a director in the acquisition department that believed in what we were doing, and gave us a lot of free rein to kind of go out and achieve those goals. So we basically did it through a couple of different initiatives. One were some sort of mid to bottom funnel landing pages on invoice templates, which have extremely high search volume. And then the other one was a blogging strategy based on Google's People Also Ask questions that really accounted for the majority of the traffic increase.
I love that. How did you make sure that traffic then converted, right? So obviously getting the traffic's great, right? And going after invoice templates makes a lot of sense for FreshBooks, right? Like very topical, very related. What'd you do then to actually make the conversion mechanism happen?
Yeah, so we also bid on these keywords historically, but prior to this, like we hadn't been ranking for them. We had just been bidding on them for paid search. So we had a ton of valuable data in terms of refining that paid search page over the years while it was the main driver. So we did little things like when instead of just saying, create an invoice or we said like create my invoice. We just made things like really nice and personal on the page, and just did our best to qualify the people who ended up downloading or trying the software versus people who just wanted a template. We actually gave people what they wanted, so people would come back and search, and eventually there started to be search volume for FreshBooks invoice templates too, so which was cool. And then just basically taking a lot of cues from paid search, really refining our title tags and meta descriptions based on the learnings there. One of the things that we stressed in our title tag was that you could create an invoice instantly. Whereas like a lot of other pages on the SERP didn't necessarily have that kind of instant kick, instant gratification. So just really learning from paid search, I would say, is the biggest thing.
Man, that's so refreshing to hear. I feel like these days, every quote unquote SEO expert or SEO practitioner even, they're just so SEO focused that they don't take any learnings from paid search anymore. Right. And it's like, it's two different people, it's two different worlds, it's two different thinkers almost these days. And so I love that you took obviously what you guys have been doing in paid search forever and applied that to your search.
Yeah, it was something we wanted to get right from the get-go. And we also did some a few CRO tests throughout the year, and recently rolled out one pretty big change that resulted in a 13% increase in trials, just by changing what was above the fold.
Wow, that's awesome. Fantastic, man. So thank you for some of this tactical stuff. Let's step back for a second. Help me understand and help the audience understand, Steve, what got you started in SEO and digital marketing?
Yeah, so like going back to like 2010, I was a copywriter at a web dev agency, and I was tasked with starting the blog. So really all of my SEO kind of early learnings were based on blogging. So, I would really get a kick out of, writing a piece and using my instincts and honing my instincts and, seeing how they ranked, then tweaking, the blogs and trying to make them rank better and just all the kind of, little things. Like back then you could actually post a blog and it would go up on page one, like right away, if it was well optimized. That was cool to see too. But yeah, it all stemmed from blogging. And then I got a job at an internet marketing agency, actually in social media. And really quickly realized that it was SEO that I loved. I just sat beside the SEO manager, and then after he left, I sat beside the next SEO manager, and then just really like got sort of really deep into blogging. I was blogging about SEO while I was doing social media at that agency, so I've been in it for a long time.
Gotcha, man. So that's how you stumbled in. How'd you end up working at FreshBooks?
Yeah, so the story goes that I was working at an agency. Sorry, my dog is just coming in.
No worries.
I was working at an agency, and it just wasn't a good fit. Like the boss and I like literally had just straight up disagreements on SEO strategy, and I was hired as the director there, and it just wasn't a good fit, as I mentioned. And he actually ended up laying me off.
Wow.
And I was like kind of planning, like just 100% honest, not just saying this, I was planning to leave there and like 4 months later, once I hit a year. And so I was out of a job. And then a buddy of mine was actually in the running at FreshBooks for the SEO manager position there. And I was like, damn, like I'm not going to go compete with my friend and like potentially take his chances at this job. So I didn't apply, even though it was like 10 minutes away from my house, like an amazing 300-person company, just so much potential. And then I just kind of waited and followed up with him. And when he was like, you know what, I didn't get it, I was like, dude, can I apply? So I applied. And he actually like coached me through a lot of those interviews. He's like, okay, so you'll be talking to this person, and this is how they're like, and like this is how the other person. So I had kind of an inside track on the whole interview process there. And then yeah, it was like 4 or 5 rounds at FreshBooks, and then they ended up giving me the job. So it was kind of a cool little turn of events. It was actually really quick. Like I got the job within a month after being laid off.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's an awesome story, man. One you'll never forget.
Yeah, it was cool. It was definitely like quite a roller coaster, but I couldn't have asked for better timing in terms of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, fantastic timing. Everything happens for a reason, for sure. Now you got a great case study with FreshBooks, right? And what you were able to do, right? Like a major leap forward, I would assume, in your career as well.
Yeah, like it was right around the time that we started seeing success at FreshBooks, like just kind of blowing it out of the water with invoice templates, that I had the idea for SEO Notebook, where basically for any listeners that haven't subscribed, it's like every week I email out like 1 page of my strategy notes. So prior to that, I'd been just reading so voraciously, testing so voraciously, and just noting things down in very random places, not having things organized, and was like, oh, wait a minute, like actually did a post on SEO Signals Lab, and was like, what do you guys do for like cataloging all your information and stuff? So people responded, and I was like, well, you know what, maybe I'll just try Evernote and see how that goes. And then like literally the next day I was like, it'd be cool if I just like emailed out 1 page of these notes like every week, and then quickly just bought the domain. And yeah, and as we began to have that success at FreshBooks, kind of gave me a bit of confidence to go and launch that thing, not knowing if anyone would subscribe.
That's awesome. So it's been running about a year, right?
Yeah, a little under a year.
Okay. And how many subscribers you got?
I think it's at around 3,300, 3,400 so far.
That's awesome, man. That's a big feat, right? Like completely creating something brand new, kind of in an industry or space, and jumping out on the ledge and making it happen. That's fantastic. What's worked well for you in terms of building that list for listeners? Like, what's maybe the 80-20? What's the thing or two that's worked the best?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say it's not just like I built the list and then kind of worked hard. I was working hard in the community before I built the list. Like I would say for a couple years in the Facebook groups, just constantly providing value and trying to help people is the main thing. And once I kind of built a reputation in a couple of those groups, I was actually made a moderator in some of them. The people had already kind of known me or heard of me and thought that I had a decent reputation there. So when I launched it, I decided to launch it with like 100 subscribers pre-launch, and then once I did, I kind of got the support of some people who I asked for their support and some people who I didn't, and within like I would say like 2 to 3 months, I already had 1,000 subscribers. So I was like super surprised, really, with how well it took off in the very early going. And yeah, like it is just about having a genuine approach of like just helping first and foremost. And for me, it's I know that there are a lot of people in SEO who have this kind of like protectionist mindset, feeling, well, if I give away, this strategy, then I'm going to rank lower in the SERPs because my competitor is going to use it and all this stuff. I don't really take that approach. I think the web is just a gigantic place. There's lots of SEO for everybody, and I don't worry about that. Like I know that the more I sort of give, the more you get. And it's just it all come back. So it's really not a concern for me. And like out of all the people who get my emails, I have really good open rates, like from 40 to 45%, even up to like 49% on some notes. And then a smaller fraction of those people are clicking, like 15, 20%. There's not like that many people who actually get the nuggets, and for the people that do, the people that actually click through and read the notes, like I'm glad, I'm glad they're getting value out of it. And I'm not super worried about that kind of thing.
I love a couple things that you said there that I want to highlight. So first, you weren't an overnight success, right? Like you've been putting in obviously work for years. I think everybody comes in, they start doing something, and from what I see, everybody gives up way too damn early. And you've been putting in work for years, like you said, helping communities and moderating communities and helping people and just giving first, which kind of rolls into the second thing, which is I'm always of the mindset that you got to give more than you take, right? Like there's always going to be in any relationship, there's going to be someone that gives more than the other one. And I'm always the one volunteering to be there. Because I know you give or you get what you give, right? But I don't lead like thinking that way. I just know that, right? Like if I put in my time and if I truly help people, then I'm going to get it down the line at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Doing things without like necessarily expecting to get something for what you do is also really important, I think. Definitely. You got to approach it like you're a farmer planting seeds, and that's all going to come back to you.
100%. Definitely agree. Awesome, man. So let's highlight some of your findings in the SEO Notebook. let's get people excited about going and signing up for this. Can you give us a couple of highlights? Can we pull a couple of notes, so to speak, and talk about some of the takeaways?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's just a couple that I've done recently that have got me kind of excited. There's actually one that hasn't been published at the time of this podcast, but I'm assuming you're not going to get this up within 3 days. So maybe, you can, but
Sure.
let's give your users a sneak peek. So basically, I'm always like either coming up with like my own strategies, or B, like noticing things that people say online. And one of the things that somebody said this week was just like so like genius to me. And it's just like a really simple like outreach approach. And what he did basically was look at like all the no follow links that he has, and he simply just reached out and said, "Hey, you think you can make that a do follow link?" And and just like the simplicity of something like that, I thought was really, really clever, and potentially could have a huge impact on some links from otherwise very powerful sites that were no following you. There's other things like schema markup. The previous note to that was about like sticking a link in the answer of your schema, and also potentially using emojis in your question to kind of draw clicks. There's all kinds of just like hacky stuff like that. Just like like quick and dirty kind of tips. Like I don't want to give my users or my subscribers an email where they've got to like spend like if you tallied up all the links that you link to, the roundups, to this, to that, like they're like literally needing to spend like 45 minutes consuming this email. I want people to just like sign up, like read the tip, and like go tell their friends because it's cool. I don't want to like just like go overboard with the amount of information that I give.
I love that too, because there's so much of that already out there, right? So it's quick, actionable, concise stuff, right, that you can grasp, and that's really cool and easy to digest. So I definitely love that angle.
Like let's say like you have a email, nothing against like something like the Moz top 10 or any roundup email that goes out. They're great, but like what I want to do is find the best tip in those top 10 articles and just focus on that.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. That makes perfect sense. So what are the biggest mistakes you think people are making these days when it comes to SEO? Right? What are the big things that you think people are talking about that in your experience is just not right, or the big mistakes that most SEOs are making?
That's a tough one because there's a lot. I would say like listening to other people talk online without really like having it make sense for you, just like trusting people's word. And I mean, I realize I'm just one of those people too. The stuff that I give is a bit more tactical, but like, and there are people in the industry who have great reputations. I mean, you look at a guy like Glenn Alsop or, Matt Diggity or Kyle Roof. Those guys are like, people you can trust, right? Like they've proven that they, do amazing work. So as far as like, people like that, like I do trust, but a lot of the stuff I see on Facebook groups, it's just, some guy with an opinion, and, don't necessarily take everybody at face value because you don't even know if that person's being honest.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely agree. It's hard. It's like you got to pass them through some type of BS meter in your brain. Like, is this even possible? Does this make sense at all? And never take anything as the gospel until you've tried it or you've played with it or you've tested it, for sure.
I think there are a lot of like products on marketplaces and things that people offer, packages for this, for that, and they sound kind of neat, they sound kind of plausible, but You got to make sure that like logically, like in the real world, like this makes sense. I don't want to get into any like very specifics because I don't want to bash anybody's products or anything like that. But you got to just ask yourself, like, is this potentially like a real world signal, and why would Google care about this? You know?
Yeah. When it comes to tools, what are your top two, your top three tools, like must have? What are the things you turn to, day in, day out, week in, week out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be probably an Ahrefs user for life. I just love that tool. There's like, for me, I just look at that tool and I just say like, this tool makes me money. So I love everything about it. Like I'm just so fast because I know where everything is. I've tried using SEMrush and just like didn't get it immediately. Didn't like the interface. So I gotta say like Ahrefs is probably the biggest one for me. And then the other thing that I just really love is Keywords Everywhere. Like even since it went paid, like I don't care. I'm gonna pay like $15 for 100,000 credits and have that last me a couple months. Like that's no big deal at all. I think it's totally worth it. The team there does a good job at like keeping their data fresh, like their search volumes fresh. And I use it all the time. Like I use it for like bulk checking, like large lists of keywords. I think it's a great tool. And then I guess just like on technical stuff like Screaming Frog, just to grab a quick list of URLs and all their information and internal links and stuff like that. I find it like pretty simple to use. I'm not too like, and then also just like when I'm doing keyword research, I would say like Google is one of the main things. And then the last one I don't want to leave out because it is an absolutely incredible free tool is a tool by a guy named Pablo Rosales. It's called SEO Ruler, and it allows you to do like really cool stuff like scraping the SERP for people also ask questions, going to a page and like copying all the headings, copying all the external links, internal links from pages. It's a Chrome extension, and like I donate to his Patreon because it's so good. It's an incredible tool and it's totally free. And I suggest you donate to it too.
Awesome, man. We'll definitely check that out. I'm pretty sure I've heard of SEO Ruler before. And obviously Ahrefs, I'm a subscriber of. Keywords Everywhere, I've used, I don't have any current paid credits since it went paid. And I use Screaming Frog, so definitely a lot of the same tech stack. I'm curious, when you say that you use Google for keyword research, what do you mean by that statement?
Yeah, so I think that it's going to give you the best tool in terms of like the variations that people are searching that are like closely related to your keyword. So also one of the recent notes I did was just I called it, I kind of dubbed it and gave it a name. I called it keyword stretching. And what you do is if you have like, several words as your keyword together, you put an asterisk in between two of the words, and then Google will fill that in and tell you what words go in between those words as well. So it's not just like the auto suggests, which are great, but it's like almost like auto suggests like internally within the query. So that can really help you. Like, for example, like some SERPs are just, like so cluttered and they have so many features, and that like big high volume term that, you think you got to go after to get the traffic. You look at that SERP and there's like people also ask, there's these weird featured snippets that now have accordions integrated into them. They've got so many ads, they've got this, that, like your CTR, even if you're ranking #1, is ridiculously low. So taking that keyword and throwing an asterisk somewhere in between it potentially gives you something that's even more targeted, more the intent is even stronger with it, and it's lower volume, but guess what? That SERP is also going to yield a lot higher CTR in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I know so many SEOs I feel like are obsessed about ranking for these big head terms, but at the end of the day, they get no click-throughs from them. So you brought up a great point They strive for these keywords thinking that it's going to like change their business and it's going to drive so much revenue. And when they finally get there, or if they finally get there, they're only very disappointed.
Yeah, and you got to realize that in those SERPs too, you also have everybody else thinking the same thing. So your competition is way more. So you go a little bit more long tail by either getting that autocomplete at the end or doing something like keyword stretching in the middle. And you've got less competition because you don't have as many people thinking in that direction and competing for that keyword.
That's awesome. When you look at strategies at FreshBooks and what you've been able to accomplish at FreshBooks, I'm curious, like thinking back, like what do you think has been the 80-20 of building links? Like either from the most powerful links, the best quality links, the most volume of links, like just what stands out? Like what's your top one or two strategies?
I would say that trying to get links from pages that are like focused on the topic that you're focused on. So if that's a link to an invoice templates page, like that article that you're like trying to that you'd love to get a link from is also talking about invoicing and invoice templates particularly, that it's not just like some article about I mean, nothing wrong with this, but like not as powerful. It's not an article about starting a business and then like invoicing is just like one thing in many aspects of that article that it talks about. So yeah, I try to get those links from pages that are like highly focused.
Okay, so very, very topically related or very, very focused. What would your pitch or your outreach method or your message be, right, to somebody that has a page about invoice templates? Like, how have you guys been able to make a pitch that's appealing, right, that gets you guys that beloved link, but also is a value add, or maybe it just isn't a value add? That's you've just asked enough people that it's happened enough times. What's kind of been your strategy in terms of getting that link then?
Yeah, I'll give you an example, not specifically for that, but also just like another way that we approached link building. So we get a lot of links. Like one of the things I think I've been thinking about recently is like, what are real world signals that show Google that you're an authority? It's probably, all those blogs that talk about best tools for entrepreneurs, best tools for small businesses, and like things like FreshBooks, QuickBooks, Xero are like obviously like mentioned a lot on those types of blogs, right? Like those are like really strong signals that you've got all these sort of entities laddering up to one topic. And so we identified, I can't even remember, but it was something like 2,000 blogs that mentioned FreshBooks in this fashion. So we actually just like reached out to them again and said like, hey, thanks so much for mentioning us here. We've also got this free tool around invoice templates that we think like, if somebody's not ready to subscribe to the software, that this might be useful to them too. Would you mind mentioning that?
That's beautiful. Yeah, very simple. They've already linked to you. They think the world of you, obviously, or they wouldn't have done it naturally. And so that makes a lot of sense. Do you see that most of them would do that in a new post or just insert it into the existing post? Or
yeah, I think the beautiful thing about it was that we were able to target posts that literally had like 50 referring domains just into that one post because they were so old. So we got these really super high, URL rating, PA, whatever you want to call it, pages linked to us. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Beautiful. Great stuff. All right. So we'll make sure to link up to SEO Notebook in the show notes. We're going to wrap it up here. I'm going to ask you one or two more questions. In this SEO space or in digital marketing in general, you could say that it's very fast paced. Whether there's really that many changes fundamentally or not is another topic. But let's just say that digital marketing is fast paced. What do you do to stay on the bleeding edge, so to speak? Like, what's your process? What are the steps you take? who do you listen to? Like, what's your thought process on how Steve stays on the bleeding edge?
Yeah, I'll give you probably a bit of a different answer, one that you may not be expecting. And going back, before I think I really truly, and this was like, before when I was working at that agency, like I didn't think like I was as advanced as I became, like, well, having this incredible learning experience at FreshBooks and, getting to really compete in some tough SERPs. I don't read blogs, like hardly ever. Like if somebody sends me a blog or they says, "Hey Steve, check out this blog," I'll read it, but I don't pay attention to any SEO blogs at all. For me, it's actually just about maintaining like real relationships with people and asking them and sharing knowledge with them and like relying on my network to feed me the interesting information. And not just like, search engine journal or search engine land.
Yep.
By default. So it's really, for me, it's about, like my Facebook Messenger is just like a constant like revolving carousel of people that I'm talking to, that I'm sharing with and they're sharing with me. And that's really, where it mostly stems from.
I love that. Awesome, man. And for anybody, let's say somebody stumbles across this and they're brand new in terms of their SEO journey. They're super interested in it. They're going to make a time commitment and investment to really start learning and implementing. What advice would you give somebody on what path to take, what tools to look at, any advice that you would give somebody that's new to SEO?
Yeah, I mean, like if you live, it doesn't actually matter where you live now, I guess, but for me, I learned on the job. Like I learned working for another company, and I thought that was an incredibly valuable experience because you can ask questions like, very easily to other people. You can get clarification, and I think most SEOs love, like people who are doing it, like really love it. At least the people who are really good at it love it. I don't think you can be a great SEO if you're not like somewhat obsessed with SEO. And so actually working, like getting a job like at an agency, and if you're halfway across the world, there's plenty of agencies that are hiring people overseas, and just having that experience and getting to have access to like their processes. Obviously not every agency is equal, but you'll still get to work on like actual accounts. You'll get to learn about, all the different types of businesses that agency has under its belt. I feel like that's the best way to learn, versus kind of, alone in your bedroom, like taking courses and stuff like that. There's obviously some great courses out there, but you don't get that like real world application you would as if you were working at an agency. So yeah, I would probably recommend that, just because that's what's been successful for me.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. Awesome, man. Last question. All right. So instead of asking you to recommend 3 books, we do something a little different here. I want to ask you, like, what's the one book that's made the biggest impact on the way that you do business, right? The way that you live your life, the way that you look at your business.
That's an easy one for me. It's a book called The Go-Giver, and it's basically, a lot of the stuff that I already talked about. Just basically adopt this giving mindset, and that things, come back to you. There's just like 5 laws in the book. It's just a story about a guy who's like trying to make his quota, and like some people that he meets along the way that teach him these like 5 lessons. And the 2 lessons I really liked out of it were just the very first law is offer more in value than what you take in payment, like always. And that doesn't mean like underselling yourself. That means realizing that when you do that, people want to work with you more, people want to recommend you and all that kind of stuff. And then like the other thing is like, so in terms of like what you give and what you're able to give, the most successful people are the ones that are able to scale the amount like they give. And so for me, that's, posting on LinkedIn and reaching, up to like, 5 digits of thousands of people, or through my email list, just hitting a lot of people with some value. So if you're able to, start by giving on a small scale, like whether that's, a comment in a Facebook group that really helps somebody, or able to like scale it like myself or people who are even much larger than me, that's when you start to basically create this network of people who have you top of mind and are ready to recommend you at any turn. So for me, it's never about like sales and like directly approaching people and giving like an elevator pitch. It's always about planting the seeds, and then inevitably people just contacted me and say, hey, loved your posts on LinkedIn, or like, hey, so and so recommended you, or I subscribed to your newsletter, really enjoy your content. I've got this project. That stuff is really starting to almost overwhelm me right now, and I'm just like really careful about what projects I take on, and doing that has given me the luxury of like only working with clients who I think are going to have a really high probability of success, and also higher value clients.
Man, I love that. I jive with that so much, and I think we think similarly about the value that we give, and showing up without expectation. But I actually haven't read Go Giver. And that first law is like me fundamentally, like in everything that I do, I think about that so much. So thank you so much for the book recommendation. And I know that so many of my people, let me know personally that that's a big deal to them too. So I think it's going to be a book that gets read a lot. So thanks for that recommendation, man. And thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Yeah,
man. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
And so we'll link up to obviously FreshBooks in the show notes, as if they need one more link, and then a link up to your SEO That Ranks, as well as SEO Notebook. So thanks so much, man, for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Only thing about SEO That Ranks is my boutique agency is I don't have a website, but yeah, SEOnotebook.com. Feel free to link to that.
All right, bud. And I'll link you up on LinkedIn as well, as that seems like you're the most active, right?
Yeah. I think that's probably my best channel. Next email.
All right, perfect, man. All right, so FreshBooks, SEO Notebook. We'll skip over SEO That Ranks, and then we'll link up to you on LinkedIn as well. So thanks so much, Steve, for coming with a giving hand and giving a bunch of value. And guys, go sign up. We'll put a link down below for SEOnotebook.com. We'll see you guys on the other side.